Awesome, guys. So we have someone here special today. He is a god of teaching men, the divine masculine, how to be in their sacred sexual essence. All kinds of things are coming up consciously, I think, around the world. We're seeing this, like men going into tantra and spiritual awakenings and conscious relationships, and everybody's like on this path of a great awakening. And so we really need our guest today is Mike Hrostoski, who's going to be contributing this message, and we'll see what it is. And I think Mike is channeling it as we go in this present moment. We're all kind of building this ship. But really, I'm so excited to bring him on, and I'll tell you a little bit about how we met. But first, I want to say that Mike is literally channeling like ideas from his life experience and from the universe. With so many years of coaching, he's jumped into this like have the best sex of your life program. And I saw just maybe 6 weeks ago a post on my Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to blow up, and it's already doing so well. You've finished the first round of courses, and now you're going into this next level. So I'll let you talk about that in a bit. But basically, men are freaking ready to wake up. Women have been on this journey. Men have been on this journey, but men are really ready to say, it's time to come together sexually, not just spiritually, but also spiritually and sexually into exchange with the sacred feminine. So I'll just say, Mike, it's been amazing watching your evolution. We met in, I think it was around 2013, so around a decade ago in Santa Monica. And we were both very different people. I think we were operating, maybe we could say, a little bit more from our egos. We were super cool LA people or whatever we were. And Mike was sort of known on the internet for being this like the blogger for men. And he had such a following and was posting very like just kind of like the Conscious Maxim magazine guy is how I thought of you. And we met, we got to have this like kind of family gathering or gathering of friends. And I remember shortly after that, you went from, kind of revealing a lot while you were drunk to going sober, like within, I think, that month. And then I've just witnessed your spiritual growth. And to me, you represent like the masculine that's gone from kind of like mainstream to like super awake and also grounded, that still can hold that space for the mainstream daily life problems. So I'm really delighted to have you here, Mike. If you want to just kind of like tell us about yourself, and just, yeah, we're just going to have tea with our soul family here. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, partners of ladies. Welcome, couples. We're so happy to have you here and grateful that you're here, Mike. So yeah, kick it off.
Thank you. I wanna ground the intro in like I'm also an ordinary man who like poops and like eats food every day and drinks water and just like all the human things. I've made so many mistakes in relationship and in business, and I think all the failures, all of our failures is what creates that fertile soil, for the next steps of our evolution as entrepreneurs. And I know before the interview, you said that your audience has like a nice mix of being both like grounded and spiritual. And I think that in itself is where I want to start. Just even the idea that, grounded and spiritual is something separate. Like that's a big distortion. I think that we're like synthesizing just through our relationships in spiritual communities and different entrepreneurship communities. And I definitely live a life that's like so much more like humble and grounded and very normal than 10 years ago when I was a nomad and traveling the world and hosting events like all over the world. And this chapter has really allowed me to like integrate just a lot of peak experiences, which I think peak experiences can come from just the organic spiritual awakening, like I know probably a lot of people watching have had, or from like plant medicine or psychedelic assisted therapy, or just even from like going on a path of entrepreneurship or being a parent. There's just like these really big energetic experiences. And I see a lot of people sometimes just like chasing the next one, which I definitely did a little bit that in a stretch, probably from like, I don't know, when I met you, certainly like 2013, I was just very much in a in a post losing my mom like stretch of just like trying to have every experience possible. And I've been just really enjoying the felt sense of like knowing that a unique individuation of the divine, having felt that like in my heart in a silent meditation retreat, and then also like embracing the ordinariness of like being a man. And to me, that synthesis is like a really lovely like sweet spot of living, when like we know we're God and we are just like a normal human eating food. And from that place, life is like this like unfolding symphony of just experience and full spectrum, right? Like full spectrum emotional feeling. And that has a direct correlation to lovemaking, of, you know, being able to be attuned to, you know, our partner, our woman's full spectrum of her full spectrum, either erotic or emotional experience, and then showing up as what's needed in the moment. And that's a lot of like what, that's just a piece of what we're teaching in the men's sexual potency incubator. But I just said a bunch of stuff, so
I
how do
know.
you want to
I'm
how do you
so
want
I'm
to
so
dance?
curious. I'm like ready to dive in at any moment to the like what's going on behind the scenes. What are the men saying? What are the men doing? Like tell all to the ladies and to me, so I can understand from the eyes. I mean, even having a partner, asking my partner what he wants. He's just one perspective. So it's super cool that you have this community of growing of men that are really unveiling is such a feminine word, so unarmoring their true selves. And you know, the sexual energy, it's powerful, but it's also so vulnerable, and it's connected to all of who we are when we're spiritually connected. So why don't we start there? You said, yeah, how we have this like separation where, you know, there's like our spirit and our groundedness, our maybe mainstream everyday lives, the pooping, the mundane, the paying the taxes. And then there's these like sacred union, sacred tantric, transcendental experiences. And I love that point that it's all one thing. And I feel like we're recovering from a major split. You could call it like a polarity in the consciousness, or I think some of the splits that have been really devastating are the splitting of the sacred and the spiritual. So it's like through religion, right? Like most of us have come from a religious background. I do know some people that were part of sex cults, so that's maybe not a great exception to the rule, that they grew up, you know, in some kind of abusive sex cult. That's not ideal, but most of us grew up with some influence, whether it be Christian or Jewish or Hindu. And I feel like it's not even about the religion. It's about the energy behind it that says your sexual energy needs to be in the other room. It's not talked about, and it's a secret, and it's dark, and there's judgment and shame. So I think that we're really needing some recovery from that piece. And on that note, I remember you telling me that you grew up in a spiritual group that maybe didn't say, here's how you become a man and your sexual energy, and, you know, go explore it and find God through your body. So why don't you, just as a personal story, would you like to start there about how your uh, foundational childhood years maybe brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I grew up in a sect of Christianity that believes in the end of the world. So I mean, for the first 22 years of my life, like I was essentially like brainwashed from infancy to believe that at any point the world was going to end, and like Armageddon was going to happen, and like God's army of angels were going to like wipe the world of like all the bad people, which was like everyone that didn't go to church with me. And I believed it because I was like one when my parents started going to the religion. So in that religion, the Jehovah's Witnesses, like they definitely are like a cult based off of there's different like bodies of work. There's a book called Combating Cult Mind Control, which I highly recommend for anyone who left like high control groups. And the author Stephen Hassan was in the Moonies, and he created this model called the BITE model, which is like BITE. And he talks about how cults they control your behavior, your information, your thinking and your emotions. So that's like BITE. And after reading that book, I started seeing that everywhere. I mean, even in the personal development world sometimes, or in certain just like certain friend groups, people will use these like real subtle control mechanisms to control someone's self-expression, or their beauty, or their sexual expression, or their finances. In the Jehovah's Witnesses, like my family, gave money to the church. Masturbating was a sin. Sex before marriage was a sin. So anyone who like had sex before marriage, basically like believe that they were committing this like horrible sin, and then God was going to kill them. As an adult, I realized, I mean, it's taken me years to process my religious stuff, because it's like malware that was so deep in my like I mean, I've been just like pulling out malware for like a decade. But I realized as an adult, I was like, wow, when I had sex for the first time when I was like 19 years old, I was basically choosing eternal death. Because that's the belief system that I was in. And as I was processing that as a kid, as an adult, I was like, God, what an absolutely twisted belief system. Like what an absolutely twisted belief system that I grew up in. And I've supported a lot of people, either partners or friends or clients, around just like unraveling their like the malware from religion. And I mean, whether they're Catholic or Mormon, or even certain flavors of like spirituality that teach like a purity culture, and having just like really shaming just like the normal like human primal nature of being human. There's so much of that. And even if someone didn't grow up religious, or their parents didn't have those beliefs, they still went to school with children who were also had those beliefs. So being a turned on, fully expressed sexual being, really hasn't been safe for, I think for anyone really. And then I know that your audience is primarily female, so as a woman, there's the slut shaming, and there's women who get too much attention from men, and they want to dim their beauty or their sexuality or their like erotic energy to like not feel threatened from just going out in the world and going to the store. So like all that stuff is happening. And there's so much more. I mean, we can continue to
Right.
unpack and uh unravel this. So women will think that like, oh, I'm broken, but then when they start processing their experience, they'll just process all of the like, oh no, wait, I'm not broken. I developed breasts when I was 12, and then like this, one of my dad's friends told me that was bad. Just like all this stuff that happens when girls are just girls, and then all of a sudden they start developing bodies, and then they get all these weird signals from the world, and it creates just a collapse of self.
Yeah. Wow, this is so interesting. I love the metaphor of malware, because we can really get how there's something fundamentally off. And like on some level, if you're on this channel and you're watching this, that there's some type of divine blueprint in our sexuality and in our humanity that's been, you could say, attacked or distorted, traumatized, wounded, whatever word you want to use. And yet, I think because we've had so much wounding and damage done, my question would be for you is like, how do we know what that divine blueprint is if we're so wounded from such a young age, and we have all this malware and the shame, the guilt? How do you help people, and how did you find like, oh, this is my divine truth? That's not it. That was either the cult telling me, or the culture, or something I picked up. Here's my aligned truth.
That's a great question. I'd say for me personally, it's been a mix of meditation and movement and dance.
Mhm.
So in meditation, just sitting in stillness for like hours at a time, and noticing what arises, and noticing that most of it isn't true. And most of it was things that I saw from movies or rap songs. In my 10-day silent meditation retreat on day 7 or 8, I started to see like the lyrics of like the rap songs that I listen to. Like I love hip hop, and I started to see the lyrics like just like printed out like in my kind of like third eye. And on day 7 of a silent meditation retreat, you're pretty dropped in. So I was feeling into all the lyrics, and I was like, like those aren't very kind ways to talk about women, and like those are probably not the healthiest orientations toward life that I grew up like listening to. And I still like I love hip hop. I love it as like a wisdom dispensation like mechanism. I think hip hop's just such an amazing art form. But I've I've like I've kind of upgraded the music that I listen to over the years. Like it's gotten more and more um I don't want to say conscious, because conscious is just like such a overly used like buzzword. But yeah, it's more it's real, but it's also loving. Like the music that I really love the most is like it's real and it's loving. And um I love that like music itself, the macroorganism of music is like it's evolving with us as consciousness evolves. Like I love, spotting new artists in every genre making music that just like breaks me open. Like I love do you know Fia, the artist? The have you
No.
heard her stuff?
Is it
Or
FIA or PHIA?
okay, cool.
I no, I have not. I'm
Um
like, I'm gonna look it up.
FI,
Okay. No, I haven't. I have to.
yeah. And then yeah, your audience will love it. They'll probably be like, oh my God, Fia's the best. So she's a great example of I think one of these like golden age artists who just her songs are amazing, just super amazing.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, I just love how like music is evolving, and really like at like everything's evolving. And um anything that's not like rooted in love is dying right now. Like that's just what's happening.
Yeah. And we
And
we have the power to turn it
um
off, right? Like, that rap song that was playing in your mind, you're like, I think I'm gonna change the station. And we can do that with our Spotify or Pandora or whatever. And the times, I think you're very right. The times are changing. Actually, this is reminding me of after I broke up with my high school first love, I messaged him and I was like, you know what? You told me like you were disgusted by eating a girl out, and I never got oral sex, and I gave you oral sex. And I want to just blame you and like tell you a piece of my mind. A year later, I have like PTSD. I feel like my body is wrong and dirty. Like, why can you do that? And then of course he responded with, oh, I have a new girl, and actually I'm totally fine with it now. I'm like, okay. But he's like, he said it was rap music was conditioning me to think that pussy is bad and disgusting. And he said all the songs were negative at that point. And lately when I've heard rap music, I'm hearing like, that juice it, like, so, and it's all these lyrics celebrating the goddess in that way. And maybe it's not the most conscious or intentional, but at least it's better and there are more perspectives coming in. So I'm really grateful about that. But it's true that music is like an affirmation that's playing in the background and our subconscious mind. And I think a lot of us, conspiracy theories like are whispered that they use certain octaves and frequencies and artists and rituals to get in with mainstream music. I don't know exactly, that's just anecdotal, but I think that it is really important to create the tantric lovemaking nest with conscious music, to listen to music that keeps our minds open. So, and ultimately, I love that you're reading the words off of this screen. It's like that's what's been going on in our mind, and we have the right to rewrite it. So as you've rewritten your love codes, your love lyrics, what has shown up for you personally in your life, going from where you started? What's kind of been the overall evolution kind of a big open-ended question, but like as a man, as a conscious man with your sacred sexuality, what are like the key turning points that allowed you to go from being mind controlled, I guess you could say, or in a cult, to creating a new cultural wave of freedom and pleasure and sovereignty?
Yeah, great question. At a low point, I remember I was like 27, I think, and I was dating a girlfriend, and I was having erectile dysfunction issues. And I remember thinking, I mean, I'm 42 now. I remember thinking 15 years ago, like, oh, I I guess I'm just done having sex because like 30 is like over the hill. And like I guess like I just guess I'm done with sex. Like I mean that's where I was 15 years ago. And as I look back at like the wisdom of the penis, like the wisdom of our bodies, my body intelligence, like there were just so many things that were like misaligned in that relationship. So my body was just like, oh no, like this isn't like where I want to be anymore. And um and I've really helped I've helped so many men have the best sex of their lives. And um I I'm going to share something like I have a lot of like reluctance to even teaching this, just full transparency. Um, it's been a part of my coaching for over a decade. And, I've worked with high performing men for over a decade. I've worked with founders and entrepreneurs and executives and a lot of coaches. And I've helped people, build six-figure businesses from scratch, and I've saved multiple marriages and helped people be better fathers and husbands. But the sex part has like almost been like a bonus in my coaching. It's just like I kind of like sprinkle a little magic just through like sharing some stories and experiences and some like real like high level principles that basically help men get out of their heads into their bodies, stop like catastrophizing like the normal parts of sex, like losing their erection, which is like totally normal. Like you don't need to have like a super hard cock all the time, but you probably think you do if you just watch porn all the time. Like most men started learning from porn, so like all that stuff is going on in men's nervous systems. So just like with these like simple shifts, men just over the years have said, oh my gosh, I had like cosmic sex with my wife for the first time, or like I had the craziest orgasm of my life. And I've always felt just very satisfied with like just getting to help that behind the scenes, but not really making like a program. And then yeah, and then like I was on a walk a couple weeks ago, or about 8 weeks ago, and I just had this like crystallized desire to like do a program around this. And it's just been so special to essentially we're running like a sexual like mysticism school where we're helping men connect more to their subtle body, to their energetics, learn how to like calibrate their body, their physical body and their energetic body to their partner's body, listen more, just slow the fuck down way more, and like listen way more, like way more, and just calibrate to what is from a place of being, and like from the place of like primordial wholeness and completeness and fullness. And then enter her from there, like, and then show up from there, and track everything that's happening, and just notice, and kind of go into this like flow state where instead of being in your head of like, oh, now I'm going to do this thing, and now I'm going to flip her over and fuck her doggy style, and then I'm going to do this thing like I saw in a porno, which is a man disassociating from his pleasure and being in his head. So like instead of that, just being there and enjoying the pleasure of your own aliveness, and the gift of life in itself, and then connecting in that space, and just with yeah, with the some of the high level teachings and some of the practices we've given men. I'd say like at least 50% of the men started like feeling energy in their bodies for the first time, having like really blissful lovemaking experiences. having like the best sex of their life after being like together for 20 years. So it's been, um, I've uh, I've cried tears of joy several times just from just like
Mm.
watching watching men really like lean into their wholeness. Really, that's what it is. It's like lean back into their wholeness and be in a more of a parasympathetic nervous system state, and not worry so much about like performing or doing it right, and just like enjoying each other. And from that place, it's, for some men it is revelatory for them to just like enjoy like the fullness of their partner. um
Mm.
and 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 everything that I'm teaching, like it's very simple, yet so many of the men, they'll I'll watch them like paradigm shift on the Zoom calls, and they'll go, "Oh my gosh, that's so simple." And then they'll bring that to the bedroom and have a completely different experience. So,
Wow. So amazing. And I love what you say about slowness and wholeness, because um, I think we've been breaking out of that porno culture, um, all these myths, and we should be able to have all these orgasms all the time. And it's very strange because we have that maybe Christian blueprinting or sexual shame, religious blueprinting, but then we also have this, like, you should be a sex god with like every lover you have. And there's like the hookup culture and how many numbers and scores. It's like these two sides. And so I think probably a lot of us have been on both sides of being like, okay, I'm going to be shamed and judged. And so I shut down there. And then there's also like, I should perform and be like a sex god or goddess, like slut, all of it. And then it can bring us out of our wholeness, so that we're just in this like head, this program trying to perform, versus like prayer form, being in our bodies, being in the moment. When you say wholeness, they think about, we're whole, we're dark and light, we shit, we orgasm, everything in between. And I went to not ecstatic dance, a contact improv that it's called Eros, and it's an amazing, if any of you are in Ubud, Bali, come check it out. So dropping into all of me, going into a translate state, the other day I realized that as I follow my pleasure, tension comes up. My jaw starts to tension. I might dance with an older man and a story comes up, a memory that I need to unpack and be with. And it wouldn't make sense to be like, I'm in bliss and I'm totally open, when actually part of me is like, I'm remembering this ex where I wanted to sock him in the face and I'm confused and I'm in a freeze and a confusion right now. So how do I dance into that? And I was realizing, I'm like, wow, if we're actually fully present for our partner, even just intimately, or even a dance partner, to physically embody it all, it's like a circus. Like there's so much going on, and the magic is when we can have it flow as one dance. And it's like a million little stories and past histories coming into union into one dance. And it is a lot. And I think it's important to teach our both men and women in these sexual mystery schools that it's okay to have the mess. It's okay. It's not only okay, it's effing sacred. It's the, like you said, the dirt where we grow that, whatever, the rose or the watermelon, whatever we want to create. So I think that's really beautiful the way you put it. Have you found, is it kind of all over the map for the conscious men that are awakening and coming forth and expressing it sexually? Are there any patterns and themes that you think would be helpful for women to know about, where men have been stuck or are armoring or have sadness, or what's it like? What's the challenge? What are the challenges behind the kimono and the men's side?
yeah, that's a great question. So so your words, I'll just speak from like the collective of men, like your words can hurt us so bad, and like and cause cause sexual dysfunction. So that happens. I've heard that story countless times. I think I had my own version of that with like one of my first sexual partners. um remember she said something, and it just like stuck. And then I was able to like heal it. And, but yeah, you know, you're saying anything about like if we're poor lovers, or I mean anything about our cocks, like that can really have like a pretty negative, um yeah, just a pretty like negative impact on a man. And again, right, it's, you know, there's a way that we can be in our truth without being cruel. You know, there's a way that we can be in our truth without being cruel. So um i've I've helped countless men unpack stories of just women like being cruel to them, like to their bodies, to their hearts, like to who they are, a very like demasculating, um energetic, and a very like a lot of like just very like cutting cruel
Sort of
things.
like a psychic castration type of energy.
Yeah,
Kali, like, I'm going to take you down.
yeah.
Wow.
And right, and I have compassion for both sides and for all humans. And you know, I know that every human alive has their own, like their own queue of trauma, because you just don't make it to adulthood without certain things. Like there's, and trauma is just when something happens that our nervous system can't fully process and come to completion, so it's just kind of stuck there like an open loop, often right below our awareness of our conscious mind. So it's just this like loop that's down there that pops up 40 years later, surprise, when we're when we're having kids or getting married or like buying a house, or you know, starting a business. And then this thing, you know, finally comes back up. um so yeah, just your words just do have a major effect. I In terms of bodies of work that I really love, Alison Armstrong's work is super great. Her work on understanding men. There's a book called the Queen's Code. I had an ex-girlfriend who read the Queen's Code, and then after reading it apologized to me and was like very heartfelt, profusely apologizing for all the ways that she had been subtly demasculating me in my relationship, because she just didn't see it. And then she read the book, she stopped way more spaciousness in our relationship. So the I've become friends with some women from the Alison Armstrong community, and knowing them, like just knowing them and being in their presence has healed my heart so much. Like they're
Mm.
so affirming of men. So the book, the the Queen's Code, is just such great medicine for women. Um, so I think that's an important piece. One of the biggest pieces that I really want to double click on is I would love a world where we just I would love a world where we drop the performative nature of everything, especially in sex. And I mean, we would meet each other with so much more intimacy and kindness and compassion and tenderness and just like understanding. Um, Men do it, women do it, you know, the the feminine performative nature. I think you spoke to it very well. It's like I need to perform and be some kind of like stripper, belly dancer, porn star, trying to do all the things at the same time. But like I'm 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 doing it from this like idea of what it is, and it's like it's not really me, and it's almost like a costume that I'm wearing. But I'm doing that because I think like that's how like you want to be fucked, because this is like what you think is hot. And just there's like all these like almost like overlays of what we do in sex.
It's so
And then for
confusing. It's, can I
yeah,
insert something? It's just so confusing because
please.
it's like this sexy dance. There is some turn on to it. You know, if we look at an image of like a porn image that we've seen over and over again, or even just we've all watched the movies growing up as kids, and like there's an attractive woman and an attractive man, and like I'm looking down at myself and, oh, I don't feel that way, but if I can, you know, squeeze in and look a little bit more like that, then I feel more turned on. So there's sort of like this one operating system that's like, if I fit into that, I do get sort of a turn on. There can be some of that, oh, I feel like a man, or I feel like this hot woman. And there's like the ego inflation. And I think that that carried me for some time into my 20s, but there was also the other side of it where I was like, shit, then he cheated on me for someone else or left me for the next woman. So maybe I need to do some type of procedure, or he saw, ingrown hair, or he saw, some part of my body that he didn't like. And so it would be like this high, like, oh, score, I'm in love, or there's this hot sex. And then all of it instantly gets deflated. So there's this kind of high-low version for me that I've experienced and seen with a lot of women and probably men too. And then there's the other side of it where it's like, there's this like sexual power from it and you're acting and performing. And at the same time, it's freaking toxic and it's the least sexy thing. It's like satanic punishment to disconnect you from your divine power. So it's like this really interesting polarity. And I think as we lift off or even just have fun with the layer, like, hey, yeah, like I'm going to dress up as a nurse today. That's fun, but it's not like we can role play and have the kink or have even if you want the porn culture, but if you're missing what's real and raw and whole, as you say, that's where it's like, ooh, it's some dark stuff. It's a never ending cycle of pain.
Yeah. And right. So all expressions of sex, right, between consenting adults, it's like whatever you want to do in your bedroom, that's fully consensual. Like that's up to you and whoever you're having that conversation with. I've personally, like as I've evolved in my sexual practice, a lot of the sex that I have now, like it's definitely mystical and multi-dimensional, but the feeling states that I get afterwards, it's like very super nourished, and there's more of a regenerative nature to the sex, and
maybe also to the connection and to you, or both.
Yeah. I mean,
hopefully your lover too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's this it really is like an infinite playground. And like once things start to open up, I'm just trying to tune into like what to share publicly. But as creators, we can really start to bring our imagination, like, and our consciousness, like, into the bedroom. And when a man starts to learn to like be in full control of his physical body, his subtle energy, his imagination, that's where these like almost like sexual cities start to open up, where you can like breathe an orgasm into someone's brain, or like you can like feel your cock like energetically going into like your lover's heart or her brain. You can just like play her body like an instrument. You can send sexual energy through the body. You can experience all these wild different types of orgasms. Like they just keep on showing up and like surprising me in the novelty of it. And a word that we use a lot in the work that we're doing is, it's stepping into your limitless sexual future. And I just know that sex will continue to unfold for me in a truly mind-blowing way, where afterwards, we'll be sitting there just like, wow. Or sometimes the energies that come through are so big, like I'm in them and they're animating our bodies, but I'm also observing them and just being like, wow, like this is I had no idea this was an option on the menu. But in order to get here, we had to like work through all of our pain bodies and do all the therapy and the coaching work to become more just cleaner vessels for energy itself. We had to take full responsibility and accountability for our emotions and everything on our side of the fence, not blaming or complaining or judging or shaming each other. We had to do like our own work to, reconnect to God, source, the universe, and like whatever way that is, to just kind of open up that channel again. We had to work through all of the like sexual trauma of just growing up in a society with a lot of really sick and distorted ideas around sex that kind of punish everyone. And through working through all that, then it's like then we can really meet each other in that kind of soul to soul place. And it's not always going to be like that. So like sometimes there might be pockets of that, and then sometimes someone like might get sick, or someone might like have something in the business that's super stressful, or someone might get in a car accident, or maybe your parents move in, or you have a and like it's not always going to be like cosmic fucktown all the time, but that's also part of the human experience of being able to navigate everything with grace and like a grounded level of workability. So something that I did want to speak to is, there's a lot more like fathers that I've been coaching lately. And, it's really, when I coach them, I recommend to, carve aside time on your calendar for sex, just like your workout or just like your meditation, and, create a time and create temple space, and, architect the space for lighting, or, essential oils, or good music. Create that space, have all your ducks in a row the day before, like handle your work, so like all of the open loops in your business are handled, so then you show up with your full presence. Do maybe like rent an Airbnb for like a night. Yep, that's something my girlfriend and I have been doing since December. We rent like an Airbnb on once a month, and we have this little 24-hour retreat, and we just kind of go into like sanctuary portal space, and then we come out, and it's like, wow, I just felt like we just went on vacation for a week. But it's just one day of like full presence of being together. But yeah, as parents, and even if people don't have children, there's still careers and practices and things. So I mean, you do need to schedule it, and that is a really important thing for parents to, because it's really easy to not do it, and then all of a sudden look and go, oh wow, like we really haven't had sex in 2 years, or we've haven't had sex in a long time because we haven't scheduled it. And so I do recommend people to get a childcare, or if you have the blessing of having your parents in the same town, let grandma and grandpa watch the kids, and just like enjoy having that intimate time together. So like there's not only are there the deep mystical parts of it, there's also like the very practical schedule it in Google Calendar and make sure that like all of your stuff is handled for that day, so then you can show up with a presence that you both are able to just like really enjoy each other. So
yeah, that's super helpful. And as busy parents, we can definitely attest to scheduling it versus not scheduling it. Scheduling it is the way to make it happen regularly and really have it be frequently enough, so we can see a positive growth cycle, versus if it's like, oh, we let too much time go by, then that intimacy lovemaking session is like, oh, we haven't connected in so long. It's like, oh, there you are again. Versus if we're already really in that nourished, connected bubble, saturated in it all the time, we have regular, whatever it takes for us, however many times it is per week or month per, each couple is going to be different. But it's like we're already in that basic like connection nurtured space, then we can take to the next level, and it keeps growing. But I find that if we don't schedule it, things can get crazy with business and baby and everything like that. And yeah, there have been so many times where like right when I'm about to have an orgasm, my daughter comes in, like, how did she know? It's like maybe because she was made with an orgasm. But yeah, scheduling it and all those things are super helpful. And one thing that I've learned recently, with help from a tantra friend of mine, is that when, like, for example, I had some trauma from my birth, which is sort of like a form of sexual trauma because it's a sexual organ. I had a breech birth, and it was an amazing sacred experience. And there was a fair amount of tearing. It was an orgasmic breech birth, both orgasmic at the beginning, and then like some like, okay, we're just going to keep breathing, at the end. And what I've realized is that some of those things of, we've let too many days, weeks go by, or I have to get this email taken care of. Oops, we ran out of time to have our sexy space, or we forgot to book the nanny, and it just keeps going, is it's a direct reflection of the trauma that's saying, no, 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 no. But the thing that the trauma actually needs is that sacred space that you're talking about, and to say, we're not going to force you at any speed but your own, but we're here for you. Let's listen and let's start to touch you so that you can come alive again. And we're here to heal it. And that's been tremendously helpful, having those containers and having yoni massage like structures. So I really appreciate all of the work and systems. I was teaching women how to do self-pleasure for single women to call on your partner, but now I'm like, I got to create a program for busy moms, or I mean, I think the whole planet probably could use a lot of these systems and support. So thank you for naming them. If you had like any wisdom for women, especially those who are single or maybe in a new relationship, or they're not sure, you know, should they get married? They're still in that like real discovery period of like, but they do want to seek out like a primary life partner. What would you say is the most supportive thing that they can do? Maybe two things: one, for their partner / relationship, and two, for themselves, for the relationship.
Are these single men or single women, or women in relationship?
It could be both, but they're not committed for life partnership yet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing that I want to share is just like, just enjoy your life. You know, there's so much pleasure in life itself, from fruits and clothing and smells and the sun and the wind. And you know, don't limit your immense, I mean, immense capacity. Like I have some friends who are just pleasure, I don't even know what to call them, but yeah, I have female friends who just like live like they're just, everything is drenched in pleasure. And I watch how they move. Great, wonderful.
Not always perfect about it. I can get derailed into the
Yeah.
old system, but that's my soul. Yeah, I love it.
And it's that's a gift to every room that you walk into. Just your supple, radiant, like satisfied self. And you know, watching a woman in pleasure is some of the greatest art. You know, I think everyone loves watching a woman in pleasure, whether it's an orgasm, or her eating something, or her just like enjoying nature. Just that a woman in pleasure is like one of the greatest beauties possible.
I would say
So
everyone who is awake. I think there are those that would really punish a woman and do punish women for that. I've just been on the receiving end of it. And we go to this like really amazing Russian community. It's like a country club here in Bali, because there's a huge community, and a lot of the art is like all these sad women. They look just so abused and sad, and or you know, angry. And I'm like, what's going on with the art? And I realized like there is beauty to all the dimensions, but there are probably those that really find women in pain and not in their pleasure attractive, or maybe a juxtapositioning of both. And I would say everything, yes, you're saying, but maybe edit it to the conscious people here will find that incredibly, divinely, exquisitely yummy.
yeah. And on that, I mean, on that note, I remember coming onto the call, and I said, you know, probably one of the things that I want to share to the women watching this interview is like, I invite you to say no more often, to really tune in on whether you want to be touched, or you want your breasts touched, or your genitals touched, or whether you want to have sex, or whether you want to cuddle, or whether you want to hug, or whether you even want to be in someone's space, and to just really, really, really fucking honor your true yes and no, and to really live from that space. And if a woman has a history of people pleasing, or of just not being fully expressed, or growing up in more of like a patriarchal, you know, family or a religion or a system where like the men had all the power, then it might be kind of scary at first. But as a woman does that, I've seen so many women go through that transformation, and they physically become more beautiful. Their bodies like fill in more. There's there's more of that, like just more of the goddess energy can land, and just the the timbre of their voice changes because they feel safer in their body, because they have evidence that they can speak for themselves and be an advocate for their body of what they want. And then the more that a woman does that, it's this like virtuous cycle of not, you know, attracting or magnetizing anyone who like doesn't honor those boundaries, because her no is very solid. And then from there, just like life literally gets like juicier and more delicious and more orgasmic and more prosperous, because she's honoring herself. And um yeah, if that's scary for you, then I'm sorry that that is scary for you, and I'm sorry that you had the experiences that has you advocating for what you actually want be a very challenging thing. But there are many men who would gladly celebrate your no and say thank you for having a well calibrated no, and I can trust your yes more now that I've gotten the no. So I mean that's like that's the main thing that I want to share today. Like it my heart aches, and it just feels so tender as I share that message from all of the stories that I've listened to from friends, from, you know, all my female friends. um but yeah, I mean that's like the real main takeaway that I want to share, is to like really fucking honor what's true for you, and be able to calibrate to the moment, like even to your husband who you've been married to for 10 years. There's so much sexual entitlement um that I think people have sometimes, of like, oh, we're married, so we should just get the fuck all the time. I had that for sure. I had this like sexual entitlement that I had to work through with previous partners, of just, hey, like we're in a monogamous relationship, like let's fuck, like I'm not fucking anyone else, like all these other women want to fuck me, I don't want to fuck them, I want to fuck you only. And it was just like, it was this energetic like kink, not kink like the
In a good
spanking
way.
and flogging, but kink like that's there's that's where the energy was getting stuck. And like I had to like just work through my sexual entitlement, and be, yeah, be able to be calibrated to whether or not my partner was available for sex. And then, you know, and if this hasn't happened, but if, you know, if I was in a partnership and my partner, you know, if it went like months, you know, 3 months or 6 months without having sex, then I might start to advocate for my own sexual needs. And say, hey, you know, I have, my sexual needs aren't being met. Let's have a real adult to adult conversation. But in the in those crunchy conversations, like that's where the deepest healing is, right, Amanda, right? Just like in the crunchy, challenging conversations, when we both bring like our like Father, God, Divine Mother energy to it, and we like, and we hold it as a couple. And even though like there's like a crunch, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's a crunch, and sometimes it's like a simultaneous crunch, and it takes like all of our compassion and just like all of our love
Yeah.
to kind of get through those. Afterwards, it's like we go through this portal, and there's so much love, and there's so much devotion, and there's so much gratitude for like, thank you for not leaving me in that place, thank you for not abandoning me in my most scary or crazy or erratic or, you know, just neurotic ways of being, and thank you for like being a stand for love. And like I love that. I love that experience. Like I I love I love the art of sacred union. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world, which is why I love seeing couples. I love seeing couples just be all in. Like when I caught up with Jack, your beloved, for the first time, and probably, I mean, gosh, 3, 4, 5 years. Um, I love how Jack is all in with you, and I just love how, like, he's just, there's not a single thought towards any other timeline than being with you.
Well, there might be a thought or two, but that
And
only turns us on, right? It's like, oh no, you're not. That's a bad
I mean,
boy. You come over here. Not that timeline. Come back to mama.
well, you know him better than I do,
I
definitely. But I mean,
think we're all human,
in
right?
my
Like there's always going to be that single part of us, that little kid part of us, that, you know, all the little past versions of ourselves. They're still there, and there's a way to find solace in them and nurture them. You know, there's a part of me in my like wild and free, sexy years that wants validation from getting attention from men. Is that wrong? There's the bisexual part of me that wants to do all kinds of naughty things. Is that wrong? And what I found is there's outlets that don't have to compromise my marriage in any way. I can be 100% monogamous, 100% faithful, and uh, open source with all the data. Hey, I went to this erotic contact improv and I learned this, and this is what happened, and I said no to this person and I said yes to this, and it was very juicy, but I hope that, you know, you said that was okay. Just checking in, how do you feel? And then, like, you know, you said that coming to truth moment, the de-armoring, it always brings more intimacy, more trust, more clarity and safety. So it's not always easy, but
yeah, yeah,
and I love to say, if
there's
there's any, oh, go ahead. And I have one more question, but keep going.
oh,
So
sorry.
excited.
I love Jamie Wheel a lot, from the Flow Genome Project. He wrote the book Stealing Fire. And I heard him recently on an interview with Layla Martin on her podcast. Layla has just a really great podcast. And they were going, I mean, if you're still listening to us talk about this, I definitely recommend the Layla Martin and Jamie Will podcast. They just go so deep into tantra and sacred sexuality, and he has like a academic lens. And Jamie said this term that I haven't heard before, but he calls it a hierogamy, kind of like hieros.
Mm,
So he said, you know, hierogamy is this form of relating, which like can be in a monogamous or a polyamorous relationship. It's like whatever the form. And I mean, most people can't do it well in a poly relationship because they haven't learned how to do like the actual hieros gamos, like that level of like devotion and commitment with one person. So I normally recommend, like, you know, start there before you start trying to, you know, juggle chainsaws. Just that there, like, there's nothing more beautiful than that. Like the and and I think what I find really sad, and um what I really appreciate about various teachers and people who share some of these experiences publicly is that, like, I did not know that any of this was possible for most of my adult life. Like I did not know that the sex that I can regularly have now was an option on the menu, because I never saw it in porn. I never saw anyone talk about it. And I wouldn't have believed it in my wildest dreams. Like I really wouldn't have. Um and and just there's a sadness around that, and I so appreciate people who do share what's possible. um and I'm in process around even holding space for these containers, because like I feel a little squirmy, not in the teaching of sex. So I mean in that I feel super solid with like teaching men, but I'm just being honest with you, like I still feel a little squirmy about being like, oh, am I like in like the sex educator space now? Are people gonna have these like thoughts about me now? Like
Mike,
I
you are
like
now
being,
officially ordained as a sex educator. You need like a lab coat or something, like a badge.
but I just want to be really honest with like that,
Yeah.
just even in me, and I feel so solid in sharing this because I have the results from the men that I've supported, like in their marriages and their relationships. But there's still the part of me that's like sometimes squirmy sometimes, and I can find like I just wanted to share like my humanness in that, like I'm still landing in doing this work, and I'll find like with certain people, because I'm highly energetically sensitive, like clairsentience is my main clair, and I'll feel with certain people when I talk to them, I can feel like what their like programs or like what their beliefs around sex are, and like I can tell they have a whole bunch of stuff around it. So then for those people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a life coach for men, I coach high performing men. And for some other people, I'll feel just more of like an openness in their field, and for them like, oh, I'm running like a I'm running a incubator to teach married men sexual potency, and yeah, I just wanted to be really honest and like human about that I still sometimes like don't enjoy having conversations about this work, because then there's like an emotional labor and like a psychic projection feel that I get from people who have their own stuff, just from hearing the word sex or cock, and then sexual mysticism for them being like, are you doing the devil demonic stuff, because there are some people who have belief systems that everything that's not Jesus is demonic, and
Right.
that's their worldview, and that's like that's what they're bringing in through their bodies,
Yeah.
and so there's a and whatever belief system works for you and supports you in being a healthy whole human in service to humanity and loving and being a good parent and community member. I fully support that. But in all of the religions, there's the people who really live it, and then there's the like distorted distorted like extremist expression of that, which is oftentimes causes of murder and wars and just all sorts of crimes against humanity. um so wild time down here on earth, but I'm happy. but
Yeah, but it's time.
yeah, I'm I'm truly inspired, I think, daily from a lot of our friends and conversations that I get to see on YouTube or on a podcast, that just we're so freely sharing wisdom and knowledge right now. I mean, the living library of what's available for free online it's so amazing. It is so amazing what we have access to now, and just all these amazing teachers. We can learn so much for free just online, or if we want closer access to them, we can join one of their programs, or if we want super close access, we can hire them one-on-one. And if they don't have a one-on-one program, we can still message them and say, hey, I really want to learn from you. I know you don't do one-on-one stuff. How much do I have to pay you to learn from you? And then we every like this game is really like an infinite game, and there's so much here to help us. And um, we do need to like activate our agency and sovereignty and take responsibility for our life to evolve, physically, sexually, spiritually, financially. And um, there aren't there aren't excuses anymore. I just don't see like excuses anymore to not do the work when there is so much out there, and a lot of it is free, and there's just so much value to bring into people's lives, yet they have to choose it. So, and I can't, I gave up on controlling and trying to save people.
You're not starting a sex cult, are you? No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, of all people, I don't think that would happen. Yeah, I love how this kind of loops it back to the beginning, at least for me, is, we talked about how there's this split and, are you this, are you that, are you part of the spiritual community, or are you part of, sexual or religious, or, and what I really feel from this conversation is it's time to come whole, come home to all of it, like all of our chakras, not just operating from the head, or not just operating as a sexy tantra teacher who like works from the pants down and really, it's all about the body. It's really about integrating all of it. And when I see you stepping up with your community, it really is like a symbol initiation for, I think of you as like the first coach for men, that was like going mainstream, or, speaking out, with the loud, what are those loudspeakers? And it's like really time for the divine man, the human men on earth and the human women on earth to come into our wholeness, which includes all of our holes. No, I'm just kidding. All of ourselves. And we've been damaged. We've gone through traumas, as you said, on probably all the chakras, all the levels. And yet one of the most root ones and probably the most suppressed ones is now coming online. And it's one of the most powerful ones and the most sacred ones. I mean, they're all, equal, but, and it's like, there's kind of a clue that we come out of one seed and one egg. And here we are, you like walking, breathing, living from like which area? It was from our parents' genitals, so there's something about the generations and the genitalia that is so incredibly sacred. And this has been castrated from both the men, the women, non-binary, whatever it is, it's been from all of us. And now that there's this whole conversation that's happening, and not just conversation, but spirituality, multidimensionality that's happening through people doing the work like yourself, it really shows me that it's a new wave of consciousness or energy healing opportunity is here. And I really look forward to seeing what happens, not just on individual levels and even couples levels, but what happens in communities, in systems, ecosystems, economic systems, as we start to heal ourselves whole. So thank you so much for being here with us. Are there any closing words that you have to say for us, Mike?
Yeah. This is coming from my heart, but there's this call for like nourishment lately that I've been really feeling. Please nourish yourself, and please do whatever it takes to feel nourished. And I believe a lot of people are unconsciously performing from a lot of like porn programming, or just they still have their unintegrated sexual shame from growing up, and the sex is like it's kind of hot, and sometimes it's like passionate and hot, but afterwards they feel depleted afterwards. So my call is for like more nourishment and more wholeness, and just like massaging each other's bodies, just like exploring each other's bodies in a non-sexual way, like rubbing each other, just like really like slowing down and being with that, like be with your partner's hand for the next 10 minutes, and just like keep going into their hand. And then it's just like there's so much available when we just like slow down and be present. And for me, that's where I feel myself just be nourished. And there's more of those like just like juicy expressions of essence that start to like fill in the space. And then sex becomes less of like sprinting to an orgasm, and it becomes more of like just feeling these like oceanic like waves of pleasure move through the system, and both both partners afterwards just feeling like really nourished. And yeah, I really want you to experience how like nourishing sex can be with yourself or with a partner. And a really good way to practice is to like give that to yourself first. So I'm such a fan of self-pleasure practices. I'm such a fan of like self-pleasuring in front of the mirror. I'm a fan of like, like looking at your genitals, looking at your anus, looking at your whole body, and like completely taking yourself in and just like loving it all to rewire and remap your idea of who you are, and to like, and to disconnect from the old like neural networks of like dirty, you know, dicks and pussies are dirty, or like put that away, or don't touch that, or you can't touch that here, just all that old stuff, like letting those associations like disconnect, and just looking at your body and be like, wow, my entire body is beautiful, this is the most amazing asset that I have, and just keep loving yourself. And it really is, it really is like an infinite game. So since I've been teaching this container, I've had this like sexual renaissance 2.0, where, you know, I'm in the material, and I've read like 6 or 7 books on sex in the past 8 weeks, and like I'm really diving in, and the shifts are subtle, but you know, every subtle shift, just like every subtle shift, like feeling more consciousness in your breast tissue, you know, being able to exhale just a little bit more, like feeling your pelvic floor relax a little bit, like feeling the energy in your buttocks again, like feeling the energy in your legs again, you know, letting go of any tension in your body, like all those little like micro wins, like they're all wins as we go into like a deeper place of embodiment and wholeness. And then for a woman, like as she shows up to the bedroom in that place, there's just more sensitivity, and there's more pleasure, and the, you know, there's more communication between the bodies. And in my like personal and professional experience, like that's where the magic happens, when there's more communication, when our body intelligence is able to like listen to our partner's body intelligence. And that's, I mean, the the amount of novelty and the amount of magic, like in my experience, like it's infinite, like it continues to surprise me what's possible, like the freaky mind-blowing ways that bodies can orgasm. It just it continues to grow in complexity. But the only way that I'm rewarded with that experience is I show up like as a servant to the now, and just listen to what's there. And sometimes it's really hard primal like gorilla fucking, and sometimes it's like super sweet soft love making. Sometimes it's me feeling my emotions and go, hey, can you spoon me and hold me, because I need to cry a little bit. And then I cry, and then I move that emotion, and then we go back to love making. So it's just being so honest with what is, and like letting go of the performativity, and just tracking desire through our bodies together as a team, and
Mhm.
going on that like upward spiral together, and being okay when we fuck it up, because like we will fuck it up sometimes like a trigger will come up, or sometimes, you know, we might slip, or my my I feel like my hand goes on my like partner's hair way too often, and she gets her hair pulled, or yeah, like that stuff will happen. Like if we, or sometimes we'll, you know, someone will express a desire that might make the other partner feel a little unsafe or insecure, and then like we get to be with those parts together. But like it's not gonna be like a smooth ride all the time. But when it's not, then we have an opportunity to like love the most unlovable parts of each other, and be like a sacred ally, in that space. And just, I mean, saying that almost brings me to tears, like how deeply our love can transform someone's like identity, or their body, or their felt experience of being a human being, like how they inhabit their cock, how they inhabit their womb, how they inhabit their body. Like it's fucking sacred, like it really really is. And um and you know, the price of it admission is taking full responsibility for your life in every way, and in every way, which is, you know, emotionally, mentally, and thoughts, words, deeds, actions, and the more wholeness we integrate and the more coherent we show up to life, the orgasmic state is like, it's almost our like natural way of being. And I mean, I still know nothing about sex. Like I mean that. Like I still learn so much all the time. And I'm finally, in my 40s, I'm finally starting to understand why they call it the mysteries. Like I'm finally getting that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm finally getting that. And it's so humbling and beautiful and hilarious, all at the same time. Um, and and even now there's like an hour of content that I could just straight dump right now, but like we only have our time now. But like there's so much to explore, but like that's why we're here. Like that's the gift. The the mystery and the surprise and the novelty is the gift of like being here in these human bodies, and like not having all the answers, but learning it through direct experience with a beloved, and and like having that felt experience, whether it's being with grief together, or being with like sacred rage together, or being in like orgasmic bliss together. Like wow, like we get to do that in bodies. Like holy shit, that's amazing. So that's my final, that's what's on my heart.
I love it. I love it. For those people that are like, what if I get in a committed relationship and I get, bored with my partner 40 years from now? Well, here's your answer. There's the ever unfolding rose. The mysteries just keep unfolding and getting deeper and deeper. So find that mystery within yourself, someone who can play with that, and you'll never be bored. So, oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much. So, Mike Hrostoski, is there a place where they can find you, your body of work, anything you'd like to share?
I would say right now, just find me on Facebook. So you can just have a link to my Facebook page. So that's
Awesome.
where I'm most active.
All right, perfect. I'll put that in the description. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor, my old friend. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully, we've got some love inspiration for self-love, self-pleasure, for relationships that you can bring to inward to yourself and out into the world. Have a beautiful, blessed, and blissed day. Bye for now.